I want you to think about a predator. A predator so successful, so devastating, that it has literally changed the course of human history all by itself. You know, entire armies have been ground to a halt, not by swords or bullets, but by a tiny assassin that delivers its poison with a single, silent bite. We're talking about great civilizations, from ancient Rome to the folks who first tried to build the Panama Canal, all brought to their knees by this one creature. Just completely drained by an enemy they couldn't even see. Let me put that number into perspective for you. This one animal is responsible for more human deaths than every other dangerous animal on the planet combined. It's not even close. This is, without a doubt, the deadliest animal on Earth. But here's the crazy part, the paradox. This master of destruction weighs less than a paperclip. It's so small, so seemingly insignificant, you barely even notice when it lands on your skin.
Yeah, we're talking about the mosquito. That humble, annoying little insect is the single greatest killer in all of human history.
So that brings us to a pretty radical question. What if we could just snap our fingers, and tomorrow morning we woke up and every single mosquito on Earth was just gone? What would that world actually look like?
Well, the very first thing that would happen would be this massive shock wave that would just ripple through human society. And for us, it would be almost entirely positive.
Just look at these names: malaria, dengue, Zika, yellow fever. These aren't just diseases, right? They are forces of nature that have shaped our world, deciding where we can live, where economies can thrive, and where progress is even possible. If mosquitoes just disappeared, the spread of these diseases would basically stop overnight. We are talking about preventing millions of deaths and hundreds of millions of illnesses every single year. This wouldn't just be a step forward. It would be one of the greatest public health victories in the entire history of humanity.
Okay, so that all sounds amazing for us, but nature isn't really built around what's good for humans. Surely there has to be a downside, right? There has to be some kind of huge ecological price to pay for wiping out the world's deadliest animal.
And that's the big question, isn't it? If we pull this one tiny thread, the mosquito, out of this incredibly complex web of life, does the whole thing just fall apart? I mean, on the surface, it seems like a real possibility. Mosquito larvae are a huge food source for fish. And at dusk, you get these massive swarms that are basically a buffet for birds and bats. They are absolutely a part of the food chain. But here's the twist. That whole ecological collapse scenario, most scientists agree it's actually pretty unlikely to happen. And the reason is that very few animals are picky eaters. Most of them are what we call generalists. They have a varied diet, so if one thing on the menu disappears, they just switch to something else. And this really gets at a core principle of how nature works. Ecosystems are unbelievably resilient. You can hit them, you can change them, but they are built to adapt. Nature bends. It very rarely breaks just because one tiny species disappears. But this brings us to a really important point, kind of a secret to this whole debate that almost nobody talks about. The goal was never to get rid of all mosquitoes. See, when we say the mosquito, it makes it sound like one thing. But we're really talking about a gigantic family of insects. There are over 3,500 different species, and that number is the key to understanding what scientists are actually trying to do. So check out this breakdown. It's wild. The overwhelming majority, like 97%, are completely harmless to us. They just drink nectar from plants. Another 2% might bite you, but they don't spread any diseases. The real bad guys, the ones carrying malaria and dengue, they make up less than 1% of all mosquito species. Think about that. Less than 1%. The actual target is incredibly small. So how do you hit a target that small? Well, that's where this revolutionary technology called gene editing comes in. Scientists can use something called a gene drive to make a specific change that spreads through a population like wildfire. So, for example, they could introduce a gene that makes it impossible for just one species of mosquito to carry malaria. You're not killing it, you're disarming it. It's not a bomb, it's more like a surgical strike. But even with that kind of incredible precision, we have to think about the long game. Because anytime you create a vacancy in an ecosystem, you're basically challenging evolution to a race. And here's a spoiler for you: evolution never loses.
Nature absolutely hates empty space. So over a few decades or maybe centuries, another insect could evolve to fill that gap. The system would just rebalance itself.
And that leads to a pretty chilling thought. We might get rid of our problem today, but we could be setting the stage for a totally new one to pop up generations from now.